This feature is powered by Digicel. Digicel, better together.
The whole population of our little nation is not a lot, but oh, what a mixture of races and culture, that's what we've got. Still no major indifference of race, color, religion or finance. It's amazing to you, I'm sure, we didn't get independence before, which means Trinidad and Tobago will always live on. Colonialism gone, our nation is gone, everybody, we go follow our leaders.
Few things define Trinidad and Tobago better than our people. It's the way we express ourselves, the things we say and the way we say it. A simple or, or ent has a million meanings. Okay, so yeah, we like to exaggerate too, maybe not a million. But what really gets our peacock feathers blooming is our cultural and ethnic diversity. And while most countries are trying to up their diversity game, we've been on that boat a long time. Okay, you know that. We like to boast too. But seriously, it didn't happen by accident. The diversity part, not the boasting. And we have history to thank for that. Events like the Cedula of Population were key contributors to the diversity that exists here today. So let's start by talking about what a cedula is. For the Latinos in the house, you already know. But for everybody else, cedula is a term used in Spain, Latin America, and the Philippines to mean official document or certificate. As far as the Cedula of Population goes, here's what that was all about. In 1793, the King of Spain proclaimed a cedula for French Catholics, free people of color, and their slaves to settle in Trinidad. They called it the Cedula of Population. Its purpose was to encourage immigration to the island and to grow a plantation economy. But the King of Spain didn't magically come up with this idea out of the blue or from his own head. To find the source of this plan, we have to go back 16 years before to 1777. Meet Philip Rose Roume de Saint-Laurent. I don't know about you, but that name took me back to secondary school history class. Roume de Saint-Laurent. Anyway, he was a member of an aristocratic French family who helped build the French Empire in Louisiana and the Caribbean. And at that time, he was a well-off planter from Grenada, where he was actually born. Even though he was Grenadian by birth, he was extremely loyal to France. So after the British took control of Grenada in 1763, he took up a position as the only French member with His Britannic Majesty's Council. Then, 1776, he impeded consular business. And you don't do that just so. So Roume wasn't a fan favorite with the British crowd. And in 1777, he made his way to Trinidad to see what the island had for him. When he got to Trinidad, then ruled by the Spanish, it was extremely undeveloped. The Spanish were too concerned trying to find El Dorado. They were looking for gold. They were so concerned they weren't bothered with many other things. Roume, being the development go-to guy, family ties and all, became friendly with a number of Spanish officials, Don Juan de Catilla being one of them. Catilla invited Roume on an island-wide expedition while he, Catilla that is, was collecting data to create maps. Who say road trip? While on the road, they talking. And they ended up discussing Trinidad's economic prospects. And Roume had a groundbreaking idea of how he could encourage more people to come and settle on the island. He spoke to a few other people and was even encouraged by another government official, Manuel de Salaverria, to go present his findings to the King of Spain. Roume was so confident in his idea that he spent every last cent that he had to get to Spain. The king loved the idea, but in true kingly fashion, never gave credit where it was due. Naturally, Roume got vexed and moved to France to live with his wife and look for work. Eventually, landing a gig in, of all places, Tobago.
Trinidad is my land, and of it I am proud and glad. But I can't understand why some people just talk it bad.
The Cedula of Population, though, was an immediate success in Trinidad. French men and women of the Roman Catholic faith were invited to settle in Trinidad, but they had to swear loyalty to the Spanish crown, a very small price to pay for what they would get. Free land grants in sizes according to their race and heritage. White settlers would receive 16 acres for each man, woman, and child, and half of that for each slave that they brought. Free persons of color would get half the grant that a white settler did. The cedula consisted of 28 articles. These governed various forms of land grants, population growth, naturalization of inhabitants, taxation, armament of slave owners, the duty and function of a militia to protect the island, and merchant and trade issues. Article 5 of the cedula, for instance, promised all settlers the rights of citizenship after 5 years' residence, and this included the right to hold public office if qualified. Surprisingly, it did not make any distinction between whites and coloreds, and considering this was the 1700s, that was totally unheard of. White French planters with their slaves, free persons of color, and mulattoes from Grenada, Martinique, Guadeloupe, and Dominica migrated to Trinidad during the French Revolution in hopes of making Trinidad their home and, of course, making some money. Don Jose Maria Chacon, the last Spanish governor of Trinidad, was the one who had to oversee the settlement of French Catholic planters. Under his rule, Trinidad saw a steady flow of immigrants. The population of Port of Spain increased from under 3,000 to 10,422 in just 5 years. In 1797, the figure of the population of Trinidad stood at 18,627. Of that, there were 2,500 whites, 5,000 free blacks and people of color, 10,000 slaves, and 1,082 Amerindians, many of whom were moved to Roume so that the French planters would have access to the more fertile land. These new immigrants established the communities of Blanchisseuse, Chamfleur, Cascade, Carnage, and Laventie. The rapid growth in the population caused Governor Chacon to implement many innovations. He constructed government buildings for the public services, built a road to St. Joseph, and a military barracks there, by the way. He also established the town of San Juan and instituted the parish of San Fernando in 1786. When Trinidad was seized by the British in 1797, the Cedula of Population remained an important document. It established the legal status of the free persons of color in Trinidad, and it protected their liberty, persons, and property just like other inhabitants in the British Crown colony. The French have significantly contributed to the rich culture here in Trinidad and Tobago. If you have any friends with surnames like Leotold, Bosse, Rosta, or even Divines, they just might be descendants of the French. So the next time you line with them and utter the word "oui," you may have Roume de Saint-Laurent and the Cedula of Population to thank for that.
Our steel bands is the best talent in this world. Like calypsos or stories are told, with this rhythm to touch your soul.
There's so much to learn about how Trinidad and Tobago developed, and hopefully this episode has whet your appetite and made you hungry for more info on how events like the Cedula of Population laid the foundation for the development and growth of Trinidad and Tobago's social and economic structure.
Because now, more than ever, we must show discipline, tolerance, and production to build a strong and better nation. I say that is the main foundation. So come, let us work hand in hand, because this is our land. Come, my brother, come, my sister, and let us build a nation together.
This feature was powered by Digicel. Digicel, better together.